Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast and the Boss Superpower Series. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I'm here with my amazing, wonderful friend and co-host, Miss Lau Lapides.
Thank you so much. I'm already getting verklempt. Incredible to be here as always. Love it.
Law, I love chatting with you, and I have a very interesting topic, I think, today.
Ooh,
because
share.
I love me some Peloton. So when I'm not Pilateing, I am Pelotoning, or I am pre-coring, but I'm Pelotoning a lot. And I have a favorite instructor. I have a couple of favorite instructors, but one of them, for those Peloton people who know Cody, I love Cody. I was spinning away, and Cody said, my therapist asked me, how do you know when you're lying to yourself? Or do you know that you're lying to yourself? And I thought, wow, what a great question, first of all, because it really makes you kind of stop in your tracks and think. I honestly, Law, throughout my life, there are many times that you kind of know, right? You kind of know when you're lying to yourself. Maybe you're in some form of denial, but you're lying to yourself. And I think that we need to delve deep into this law today and ask our bosses, do you know when you're lying to yourself? And what are the stakes in that? And how can you get past that? Because I think that to be productive and to really, be successful in this business, you need to stop lying to yourself. So
yeah, and I think that there has to be at least a brief bullet hit list of how do you deal with that? Like, how do you even know? How do you start to know? What are some of the dead giveaways that you may be lying to yourself? The first one that comes to my mind is, do you have or are you aware of, I think you have it, but are you aware of your inner voice? Are you aware of it? Do you hear it?
Oh, I hear mine all the time. That's a very interesting question. Because I actually thought everybody hears their inner voice, but
No.
I actually have read that scientific studies say that not everybody has an inside voice. What do you call it? You mean inner voice? Excuse me.
An inner voice.
My inner voice talks to me all the time. Oh my gosh, all the time. What about you?
Yeah, mine is very strong
Yeah.
and very loud, and I already know all the justifications and lies I tell myself when I hear the voice in order to do something. And that's the next question I have is, once you spot that inner voice, what are the common hyperbolic statements or lies or fibs that you're coming up with that feel really good to you to say in order to void out that voice?
Well, first of all, what if you're someone who doesn't have an inner voice? Is
Good
that
question.
something that you can assess? Can you make an inner voice come out? Maybe people don't define it as an inner voice. Maybe they define it as a belief system, right?
Maybe they hide it. Maybe they bury it. Maybe they've been shamed to listen to it. There's a lot of reasons why I think people don't discover or find their inner voice. I think one of the things that I've always done, I always chalked it up to just being a creative ensemble type of person, but I think it is helpful in a sounding board of understanding what is the objective truth for you and your circumstance. If you can't discover it on your own through your inner voice, one of the things that I find helpful is surrounding yourself with really incredible people, brilliant people that you know and trust and feel good about sharing certain things with, that you can soundboard with and see, is it matching what you may be saying internally or not? Because there is a community truth about how people see you, hear you, and especially if they know you, they know your thought process, right? So they can sort of catch you when you're going off track.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times, and it depends on life situations, right? There's a lot of, I'm going to say the first inner voice is the truth, right? The inner voice really, I think, is your truth, right? And do you listen to your inner voice, right? Meaning, do you know when you're lying? Do you know when you're lying to yourself? That kind of thing. So I think that's when you're denying that inner voice from having any say in kind of the truth, or you're in a denial of the truth, or you're in a denial of acknowledging that the truth is going. We're getting really deep here, but
it's
you're
okay.
acknowledging
Go
that
right there. I'm right with you.
You're acknowledging that you don't want to. You're not ready for the truth right now. right? You're not ready for it because
Yes.
to get through that truth or to listen to that truth may require an effort that is like gargantuan and superhuman to get beyond that truth. And this could be anything, but I mean, I mean, it could be personal, professional. I mean, of course, personal affects professional, but
Of course.
I'm going to kind of focus on the professional. But having had an inner voice that I denied, right, for through personal issues because I wasn't ready to face them, and so for me, it's kind of like you get really good at telling yourself lies. You get really good at justifying why you're not listening to that inner voice.
Yes.
Because it keeps you safe, right?
Yes.
It keeps you safe in a lot of ways, or it keeps you from. I don't know. Why is it that you don't want to look or do the work that's required to get through the truth and to align with the truth?
Well, there could be, I mean, for psychological, lots of reasons, but I think one deeply psychological common reason that I see in a lot of actors, artists, voiceovers, and women is the sabotaging effect of arguing with yourself that you cannot be good enough. It's not possible for you to get this successfully done because of X,
You're
Y,
not worthy.
Z.
Yes.
Right? You're not worthy. So therein lies your inner voice. But is the inner voice being honest and truthful, or is the inner voice a sabotage voice?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That you've created as like an alter ego to help you disqualify, get out of situations, qualify things, and get you off the hook. I think artists do that an awful lot, is to say all the reasons why they cannot do something versus why they can do something. And after a while of telling yourself those lies, you actually believe them.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not getting work because, right? We'll talk professionally, right? Okay, I'm not a successful voice actor because, right?
No one's going to hire me because.
Right. And especially I'm not talented enough. My voice is not good enough. And
I don't have the right equipment.
Right. And so therefore, what does that have? Does that allow you to, I've spent all this money and I've gotten nowhere, right? So are you going to quit because you're listening, right, to those lies that you're telling yourself, or the inner voice is, saying you're not good at it? I mean, is it your inner self is you, right? So we're talking to ourselves. So inner self is you, and inner self could be telling lies that you fabricated.
Or it's the voices that have been with you over your lifetime that are the cacophony of voices that are not accurate or true.
Yeah.
That you've believed, you've gone down that road and sort of believed that that's
Absolutely.
you, that's the role
They've
that you are.
turned into your inner voice, right?
And they've turned into your inner voice. It's like that habitual, almost abuse factor where you pick up the things that you believe that people think or feel about you, maybe from your home life or your friendship life or whatever, that aren't necessarily an objective truth in the larger world, in the larger context of things. And that, I think, is very, very common. And also, especially with women, I think just wanting to please, just being a pleaser is a big driving force in not listening to your inner voice.
Yeah.
You're saying,
absolutely.
I'll just, they want me to do it this way, I'll just do it this way, or they're asking me for this, I'll just give it to them, or and putting your common sense, putting that to the side for the higher purpose of pleasing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Right?
and that is so tough. And I'll tell you what,
It's tough.
I mean, and I'm not getting into a political discussion, but I will say that external factors also play a part in that inner voice, right? And I feel like the nation is tired. It's been a rough year. I'm tired. I know as a female, right? And we've had discussions on being a female in this industry or being a female in male-dominated industries. I'm tired. I've been fighting for a long time. And the inner voice wants to say, right? The inner voice, I fight because I believe certain things to be true, and that is my truth, right? But then the other people feeding into the inner voice, you're not good enough, or you're never going to. We're never going to make a difference. You know what? We're never going to make a difference. Now I feel like, do I feel like, am I going back to, step zero?
Yeah.
And what is it that I need to resolve internally with my internal voice that's going to help me to deal, right, with the external factors that are flying at me in every second of the day.
And that's
right?
important. That's an important factor, because
it is.
when you think about either your parents or whoever raised you when you were young, you're like a little recorder. You're like a sponge. You're picking up language and sound and cadence and everything. You're picking that up from the people around you. And that's implanted in you. It's very hard to get that out and stop, thinking that and doing that. So it's really, again, compartmentalizing, okay, what my lived and learned experience was and still is, good, bad, and ugly, which everyone experiences. And then where am I as a professional in what I'm choosing to experience and who I'm creating. Someone was telling an anecdote about this, and I thought it was brilliant. And he said, I get annoyed. He's like in his 40s. He's a professional, whatever he was, like a psychiatrist or something. He said, I go home and my parents treat me exactly like I'm 12 again. They talk to me as if I'm 12.
Mine too.
Right? And you got to love that, right? But it annoys him to death because he says, I have a family, I have children, I have a successful career. It's like they haven't graduated to that level. But that's where I'm saying you have to compartmentalize all these players in your life that speak to you in a certain way.
Sure,
that contribute. That linguistically code shift, right? That say, it's okay. They knew me at different times in my life, good times, bad times, young, older. Now I have to amalgamate, what does that all mean in my voice, as to who I am and what I want to be? That's hard. That's the next step.
Yeah.
That's the next step.
I mean, it's interesting because as we are talking about the inner voice, is the inner voice really what you think, or is it what others think, right? Or is it a combination of both of them? And also, is your inner voice something that you're doing to escape, right? Escape responsibility, or escape owning up to a fact that maybe you haven't done everything you can to be successful in voice acting. And then if that's the case, right, you have to try to ask yourself why, right? Why am I afraid of success? And that's a big thing. I mean, look, you can be just as afraid of success, if not more, as a failure, right? Are you afraid to fail? Or are you afraid of success? And I'll tell you what. Are you afraid
of hard work?
Yeah. Yeah. And once you're there, whatever you've deemed to be your success, right? What's stopping you from growing more than that? Or are you complacent? Are you, for me, my personality is I cannot be stagnant. I cannot. I need to continue to grow my business. I need to continually evolve. If I don't, I feel like I'm failing. I feel like, and for me, that's the motivation I need to push myself. Now, am I afraid of hard work? No, I am not. But some people might be, and some people might think, well, I'm tired. I've got a lot of other things happening. And voice acting should not have been this hard for me. Right? In the beginning, I'm the first person to admit voice acting was hard for me. And it was one of those things where I said to myself, God, like maybe I shouldn't be doing it if it's this hard, right? Shouldn't it just come naturally? Shouldn't I just have a God-given talent? Shouldn't this just flow for me?
Right.
And over years of continually saying, well, I'm not used to failing. I mean, for me, myself, my personality is like to just keep going until I don't fail, figuring out as I go. I ultimately decided, damn it, it's hard. I mean, voice acting is hard. I mean, and I think it's very rare that you have anybody that has just an innate talent for reading words off a page and making them like sound amazing.
I got to be honest, I don't think anyone in any of our entertainment profession has it easy. I don't.
I don't either. I really don't. And it doesn't, like, just because you and I have been in the industry for many, many, many years, right? And we've been, deemed successful, doesn't mean that we feel successful all the time, right? Or that we consider ourselves successful at any given moment. Because
that's like an illusion that people want to think is a truism, is a truth, when it's not a human truth. It's not a human thing. Maybe it's a robot thing, but it's not a human thing because we're always going through situations in our
always
life that we're
evolving, right?
reacting to as well as human beings in the world that we're reacting to as well.
And things change.
And things change. But but I always say, like, what's the difference? What's the main difference between someone who's young and amateur, early stage, and someone who is a vetted professional? What's the main difference? And it's not talent. It's the fact that we all get down, we all fall down, we all get in trouble, but we're able to get up, brush ourselves off, and move on.
Get back
and
on
make
the horse.
use of that. Yeah, really make use of that. Whereas many are not able to do that. It's holding them down, it's holding them back.
Yeah.
There's that stone right on top of them that they're not able to move. So that voice is like as heavy as any equipment that could be out there. It's heavier. It can be either a burden or it can be enlightenment.
Yeah,
it's up to you.
Well, I love what you're saying about, the failure. Again, like if you failed and you've allowed that inner voice to say, I am a failure, right? Without taking benefit from the fail. I say, turn that fail, get back up on the horse, turn the fail around.
Yeah.
And spin that into positive things. What positive things can you take from that, right? So if there is the dialogue happening where, I'm not good enough, right? I failed. I didn't get that gig, right? I was not chosen, right?
Yeah.
They didn't pick my voice. I didn't nail the audition. Take that failure and I need you to reframe it, right? And restructure it so that it becomes a learning moment that can be turned into success. I mean, I think that's really like, how do you know when you're lying to yourself? Acknowledge it first. I think that's first and foremost. Once you acknowledge it, right, you then have the power to take that truth and take that knowledge and reframe it. And then reframe it.
Reframe it. And how do you utilize that reframing to be helpful in your life and in others' lives so it becomes wisdom. It doesn't just sit in a place where it's a bad experience or it's an experience that was a great experience. It becomes a nugget of wisdom for you that becomes your proverb of how you live your life and how you utilize that in your life.
And we're speaking I think so ethereal. So, and I want to kind of bring this down to like, okay, I might have a student who's come to me and said, well, I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on this demo. And now everybody tells me it's a piece of garbage. And I guess I just didn't know, or I failed, or, and so that's it. That's why I'm not successful. So I always try to tell people, look, life is a learning journey, right? And what sort of energy is positive or helpful if you're going to sit there and berate yourself for getting a demo that maybe some people don't like, right, or that you don't like, or doesn't serve you. That energy is wasted on yourself. Like nobody else really cares, to be quite honest, right? Yes, turn that, reframe it around, say I've made an investment. I have now learned and know that maybe I wasn't ready to make that demo.
Maybe it's learning money for you. Maybe you had to learn that.
That's your investment money for your business. Absolutely. So you turn that around and you learn, right? You go get yourself a different coach and you go get yourself, you learn until you feel, because I believe we all know, and they say, well, I trusted my coach. Well, I think there's also that inner voice, right, that says, I'm maybe not ready, but I'm going to put my trust in my coach. And I get it, guys, I get it. But also I think there's an inner voice in you that says, maybe I wasn't ready for that, right? But my coach says I am. And so you didn't listen to that voice, right? You don't know that you're lying to yourself, right? When you're saying something doesn't feel right.
That's right. And
I don't feel ready.
That's, the lie comes in, that's the pleasing. Because you want to please your coach. You want to please your whoever and say, are you happy with me? Are you proud of me? Did I do what you wanted me to do? Yeah. Right? And that's where you have to start saying, okay, they're my trusted advisor. I pay them for that.
Absolutely.
That's fine. But I can't put all the eggs.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I can't put them all in one basket.
Completely angry and saying it's all their fault, right?
Right. Right.
in reality, right, you need to listen to that voice. That hopefully, I mean, maybe you
That's
did
right.
completely put all your trust in them. But then again, now that you've learned, right, now that you've learned
Right.
from it, now you know, maybe I won't put all my trust in my coaches, and I will take that little voice in my head
That's
that said,
right.
maybe you're not ready, right? They said I was, but I don't feel ready, and I didn't tell them about it so that they could, reason with me and say,
Yes.
no, really you are, or maybe you're not, right? And a lot of it, I think that's just the demo readiness, right? Like, what about the audition? What about the person that auditioned and didn't get the gig? There's so many lies that we can tell ourselves about this, right?
Oh,
So,
we somehow always believe that voice.
Yeah.
We always listen to
Right.
that voice and believe that voice.
right? Oh, well, all right, I did the audition
Right.
and I must have sucked, right? I sucked, so I didn't get the job. There's the
Right.
lie. There's the lie
Right.
that you tell yourself. Now, you don't know, right? You don't know that you sucked. I mean,
Right.
maybe you do. Maybe internally you kind of know, oh, maybe I should, I haven't really coached a lot. Maybe I should get somebody else's opinion to see, because I haven't developed an ear yet. So maybe it's something that somebody else can help me with. Maybe I don't suck. Maybe I just need, maybe I just need somebody else to give me some tips, or I need some additional coaching, right? Or I nailed it. And then I heard the commercial and God, I can't believe they got hired, right? So there's the lie. How did they get hired? You know what I mean? And so how are you resolving that?
Right. And I think get it the discipline to say, okay, I want to always pay attention to the inner voice inside. But, a very famous neurosurgeon said this, and I thought it was so brilliant. I believe it was David Amen. He's like on the circuit, on the speaking circuit. As a neurosurgeon, he said, believe it or not, you don't have to believe everything you think. And I was like, whoa, astonishing. Because we somehow think if we think it, then it must be true.
Yeah, agreed.
But we're forgetting all the immense biases, experiences, sort of mental slurs that we go through in our life that help formulate those thoughts. So that's not to say that you don't understand an inner truth or have an inner voice that can't lead you in the right direction. It's just to say you don't have to believe everything you're thinking.
Yeah, you can manifest. I'm a big believer in manifesting.
You can create.
You can create with your thoughts.
You can
right?
re-envision.
So you can reinvent. You can
Redirect.
Redirect. I absolutely believe that with your thoughts.
Right?
Like they are so powerful. And of course that, audition that you didn't get, right? And then you're like, oh, I must be no good. Don't believe that, right? You're telling yourself aloud and think, here are all the possibilities that Ann and Law have said 100 times in an audition demolition. There's many, many reasons why people get the job or don't get the job, right? And not all of them are directly under your control.
That's right.
And absolutely. So maybe you didn't suck. You are good, and that's okay. And it's okay that you didn't get the job, right? So you audition, you forget it, right? And ultimately, you don't believe the lie that you're telling yourself that you're not good enough for it.
And whatever you do, you must discipline yourself to not shed and forecast everything you're thinking. They call it oversharing, but it really is forecasting what exactly is in your mind, and you're doing that to purge yourself of guilt.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's collect 500 for this hour. I'm telling you, this is like good stuff. Don't purge on other people. Don't go through that catharsis. That's a private journey for you. Because guess what? The casting director or the business person in front of you is thinking, why did you just say that? I don't see that at all. What's happening? Are you okay? Like literally, they're thinking, are you okay? Because you're forecasting something onto me that I don't even know what you're talking about. Right? Now, you and I are coaches. We catch that stuff and we try to remedy that. But you do it on the wrong people, you can never go back and make that impression again on them. Because they'll always, I remember Barbara Corcoran, I look up to her a lot as a mentor in business, and she's a more mature woman on Shark Tank, if you ever watch Shark Tank.
Yep, absolutely.
And she says, I always Rolodex in my mind. Now, whether you agree with this or not, I just thought it was very interesting the way she put this. Whenever someone, especially a woman, breaks down crying in front of me when they're pitching their product, I always kind of Rolodex that in my mind that's not someone I can work with. Now, that's not to say that you can't cry. It's not to say you can't feel emotion. You should feel real emotion and not hide that. However, when you forecast and overshare those emotions with people you don't have relationships with yet, they Rolodex you. They compartmentalize you in a place where they say, I don't know what they're telling themselves. I don't know what they're thinking and feeling, but it's not my experience of them. So from a business standpoint, it can be very harmful.
That translates right into social media. Saying, right? Your responses, right? Whether people respond, like, share or not, right? Your response is somebody's going to Rolodex that response in their brain and say, I don't think I can work with that person based upon what they just said.
Happens every day, every moment of the day.
Yeah. All the time. And so does. Understand that as well, right? And so if you're oversharing, right? Again, in a professional setting, especially like you said, I think the key is with people that you do not have relationships with yet, right? People that do not know your perspective, where that's coming from. Right. And even if they do know where that's coming from, they may Rolodex it and say, I don't think I can work with that person.
That's right.
And I get that.
And that's you.
And we get that too as coaches. And, I can't work with that person.
No, I can't work with that. And that's like you trying to find the jury. That's the jury. That's the audience. That's the cacophony of people that will agree with you on what you're saying. That's not the place to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not even an objective truth in any way. It's just a whole bunch of people who may be agreeing with you on whatever you're saying. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful in who you trust with your inner voice and with your inner self.
So I'm going to make this educated guess that when I ask the question, how do you know when you're lying to yourself, right? I think you have to start with, how do you know when you're lying to yourself? When something is not necessarily going the way that you want it to, right? I think that's one telltale way to start really looking inward and asking, okay, so why are things not happening? Why am I not getting the gig? Mm-hmm. Why am I not getting any business? Why am I not successful, or why do I feel like I'm not successful? Asking yourself those questions and just sitting quiet in the moment and really thinking about, right? Why, what are the steps to achieve success? Why are you not getting that gig? Well, to get the gig, certain factors have to take place, right? You have to have, you have to have talent, right? You have to, but not always, right? You have to have talent. You have to be in the right demographic. You have to be in the head of the casting director, which none of us are. So there's certain factors that are beyond our control. And when that happens, we have to also put in our head that there are certain factors beyond our control. So maybe we didn't get the gig because we have no control. The daughter of a close friend, they gave the job to her versus, they gave the job to they changed directions and went with a male instead of female, or whatever it is, right? Understand that there are things beyond your control, and that's okay, rather than I am not good enough. Right. And so really, and taking things, why am I not getting more work, right? Why am I not getting more work? Well, sit down and take a look at how much coaching have you had, right? How much training have you had? Are you as skilled as you can be? Are you marketing yourself as much as you can be? Why, if not, are you not marketing yourself, right? Well, you don't have the know-how. You don't have the money to invest in a marketer. You don't have the money, right? Why are these things happening? And really sit down and just, I would say, write it down, right? Write it down. What are the things that you're not achieving that you want to achieve? And what are the steps that you need to get there? Or what are the conditions in which, when they're met, you will have success in that or not success? And then really sit down and ask yourself to be truthful. Right? How much of this is under your control? How much of this is other people saying this is the way it is, and influencing your inner voice? Or how much of it is your own, right? Self-sabotage.
Yeah, and what you're really talking about here, which is, I think the nugget here, the bottom line takeaway is hold yourself accountable to finding your voice, listening to it, and understanding it, right? So, for instance, if there's danger for you, if there's an instinctive acknowledgement that you're making, don't just ignore it and do it anyway. Don't just ignore it and overlook it anyway. You oftentimes will go wrong when you do that, right? Or when someone gives you feedback and you have to actively listen and absorb that feedback, and they say 5, 6, 10, 15 times, I don't know why you just said that to me. It's not true or accurate. You should stop doing that. Stop doing it. Yeah. Like you've got to stop the behaviors.
Now where you go, yes, now you
right?
go to external sources, right? When you've listened to your inner voice and your inner voice is, not helpful, right? That's when you turn to your accountability buddies, your trusted
sabotaging.
Colleagues.
Yes.
Right? Your trusted colleagues, and you bounce that off of them. And then that is what's going to help reframe, hopefully reframe, right? You're lying to yourself, right?
Yes.
And your inner voice that can be, lying to you or sabotaging you, whatever that is. Wow. That was deep. Woo. And we're not, by the way, Lau and I are not, we are not in the business of mental health. However, this is just based on our own experiences. So please take what we say with a grain of salt, about we're sharing our experiences to hopefully help you with yours, because we are not therapists. So please, keep that in mind. And we're just here to share.
It's very true. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, if you're in business and studying this kind of work over years and years and years, you'll find that the more quality the script, the more quality the copy, the more they have something in common with great writers, great thinkers, great philosophers, great psychologists, right? So we don't need to be like a clinical psychologist to understand the analysis of a line from Shakespeare. Like we can figure that out at a certain point and say, how does that connect to my life, my lived experience? How does that connect to me uniquely as a person? Is that part of my voice? And I mean my inner voice and my mechanical voice as well. Yeah. Right? And that's what we call finding our voice. Like finding your authentic voice means like doing that work, doing that homework.
Good stuff. Oh my gosh. Woo. Woo. I'm tired now. My inner voice needs a break.
We need a latte after that or something.
I know. All right. Well, before my latte, I'm going to give a great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can connect and network like bosses. Find out more at ipdtl.com. Lau, I love you. It's been amazing.
I love you.
And my inner voice says, I love Lau.
I love Annie.
And I love Lau, and I love myself, and I love my inner voice, even when it misbehaves.
We love all of you listening, and that's why we share these inner thoughts.
Yes. Thank you, guys, and you have an amazing week, and we will see you next week. Bye.
See you next week.